Hello Turkaholics, and thank you for listening once again to Football AEK Turca. This is Season 2, Episode 2 for Matchday 3 of the Turkish Super League, and we will also be discussing the UEFA Europa League results. This episode is for the week of September 3rd, August 2019, and that's right on deadline, after deadline day really. I'm joined once again by Burak Sezgin, the returning Özer Dindjer, and a very special guest as well, Yakup Marufoglu. Yakup, thank you very much for joining us. You're going to be giving us a Trabzonspor voice. So thanks for joining us. And Burak and Özer, of course, thank you for joining us again. Özer, you must be over the moon. Of course, Radamel Falcao finally signed for Galatasaray, believe it or not.
Oh, I know. I'm still living in a cloud of bliss. I'm delighted. The wait is over. 2, maybe 3 months by now of waiting. The dream has finally come true. Falcao is ours. And seeing the delight, the joy and the elation on his face, I couldn't believe it. I just couldn't believe it. He couldn't believe he was there. He's finally got a fan base who's going to adore him, unlike Monaco, where he was playing in front of 3,000-4,000 people every week. He had 30,000 people just show up at the airport. And I think it's the start of a good relationship between us.
Undoubtedly. Unfortunately, because of the deadline day, when we were recording this, we're actually recording us on the 2nd. Deadline day is still in full flow. There's still a lot of stuff happening. There's a lot of transfer stuff to talk about. So what we're going to do is, because this is the international break, we're going to do just a coverage of Matchday 2 and the Europa League results today. And then next week, we'll give you a full transfer episode. We'll be focusing on all the transfers that happened, the highlights, of course, like Daniel Sturridge, Radamel Falcao, Nzonzi, Max Kruse, the whole plethora of transfers that happened. We'll be checking out all the key signings for the Turkish clubs, but that's for next week. In addition, you're also going to get 4 bonus episodes this week. We're going to be previewing the Europa League groups that include Turkish clubs, so that's Trabzonspor, Başakşehir, and Besiktas, of course, and then, of course, as well, the UEFA Champions League group for Galatasaray, because the group stage draws took place. I'm going to mention the group stage draws in just a bit, but you know already that that's going to be coming then your way. The recordings for that will be scheduled in this and next week, so I'm not 100% sure on the timetable of releasing those episodes. But before we get a little bit more into it, Burak, you haven't said a word yet. Welcome to the show as well, my friend.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm just smoking my shisha here, boys, so I just thought I'd go on mute to save you hearing the bubbles. And as well as the extra episodes, we are also going to bring you the story of the year, which is the sanctioned UFC cage fight between Rıza Durmushi and the journalist Yağız Sabuncuoğlu.
Right, because Yağız said earlier today or something that that Durmushi had an injury or something, but then he said, "I'm ready to play." What was it? Tell us a little bit about that, Burak, quickly.
Basically they had a little spat backwards and forwards, and Rıza said, "Speak facts, not bullshit," and Yağız then blocked him. So you should go and check it out online. It's quite funny. And then Rıza replied with a video to a Fener fan with no sound on as well. So it's just comical. So
I completely missed that in the whole chaos of deadline day. But let's quickly go over to the Europa League and Champions League draws. I'm just quickly going to mention the results of the draws before we get started on the actual Europa League result of the qualifiers. But spoiler alert, Trabzonspor, of course, managed to qualify for the group stages. So for we'll start off with the Champions League group stage draws. Galatasaray were drawn in Group A with, from pot 1, Paris Saint-Germain, from pot 2, Real Madrid, from pot 3, Club Brugge, and of course Galatasaray from pot 4. In the Europa League, Trabzonspor were drawn in Group C. Basel was drawn from pot 1, Krasnodar drawn from pot 2, Getafe drawn from pot 3, and then of course Trabzonspor from pot 4. Then for Besiktas, they ended up in Group K. They were the first team out in pot 1. Then from pot 2 they got Braga from Portugal, and they got from pot 3 Wolverhampton Wanderers, and from pot 3 they got Slovan Bratislava. Then finally, Başakşehir are in Group J of the Europa League. They got drawn from pot 1 with AS Roma. From pot 2, Borussia Mönchengladbach, and then from pot 3 themselves. And from pot 4, they got Austrian side Wolfsberger. I'm just emphasizing that that's an Austrian side and not actually the German side Wolfsburg. So that's the Europa League draw. So yeah, let's move over. How did Trabzonspor actually get into the Europa League? Trabzonspor had, of course, won 1-3 away last week against AEK Athens. They had a really good position to going through to the next round. It was almost impossible to mess up, but they very nearly did because they lost 2-0 at home against AEK Athens, unfortunately, but that was enough still to qualify for the group stages. Goals here came from Marco Livaja in the 24th minute, and then from a penalty spot from Petras Mandolas in the 30th minute. Marco Livaja also the goal scorer last week for AEK Athens, and of course he was highlighted in our preview by Stavros Markoulakis as the star player of AEK. But 2-0 was still enough. A 2-0 loss was still enough for Trabzonspor to advance to the group stages. Quickly, your thoughts on this match, Yakup. What did you think of how Trabzon played? Were you surprised that they lost this match?
I mean, well, being a fan for like 25, 26 years, nothing surprises me at this point, to be honest. Trabzonspor, they play really good football, but I don't know. I never can trust the team to finish a game, even if they won away like 3-1, as you said. But yeah, AEK just battered the team in the first half an hour, and in my opinion, the second goal wasn't a penalty; it was outside of the box. But I have to say, before the match, I thought that it would be smart to rotate Novak, Wakayeme, and Sosa. But I'm so happy that Unal just went with them just to be sure, because if Wakayeme and Sosa hadn't played, it would have ended really, really bad. It ended really awful, but it would be really bad. But the second half was better. The team started to regain their confidence, kept the ball on the team, and it was like a really tight squeeze. But we got it in the end, and we're back to the Europa League after like 3 years. So let's get it.
Yeah, I didn't really have the feeling in the second half that Trabzonspor really got into any danger. Trabzonspor were the most dangerous side, closest to scoring. Nakayeme came close a few times. AEK didn't really have a final offensive or anything like that for that third goal. Özer, you were watching the match, I believe, and I actually didn't watch the first half. I only watched the second half, so I was surprised when you told me it was 2-0 actually.
I know, I was surprised while watching it, to be honest. I mean, I tell you, one thing it really exposed or really emphasized, something we already knew, about Trabzon's defensive frailties, because both goals were really kind of because of the messed up communication in defense. They could have easily been avoided. And they really kind of shocked Trabzon's game plan, because 2-0 down, suddenly thinking, well, concede one more and that's it, you're over, it's over. And having played such classy football in the first leg in Greece, and having been in a position where he could have scored a couple more goals, I became really, really nervous watching that game. But in the end, 2-0, it's embarrassing to lose at home, 2-0. But they got the job done. That's the important thing, and it's kind of like a sigh of relief and move on. But I guess I'm going to talk about the game against Fenerbahçe from the weekend anyway. But Trabzon's defence is something that needs a lot of work, because I think their squad is a bit top heavy right now in terms of their attacking prowess relative to their defensive weaknesses.
And I feel that's a recurring topic, by the way, not just with Trabzonspor, but Fenerbahçe and Galatasaray have a similar issue, I feel like.
Yeah, totally agree, yeah.
But of course here, I think Karaman did rotate a little bit. Ivanildo started here. I don't think he's been starting in the league. He didn't start against Fenerbahçe for sure, and I believe the first goal was kind of his slip-up. And generally, from the second half that I did watch, I didn't feel like he was a very confident defender. And I said it before, I was quite surprised that Trabzonspor got Ed Guerrier and then immediately loaned him out to Feyenoord. So I bet Yakup, being from the Netherlands, you're probably watching him with great interest when Feyenoord is playing.
I mean, I'm from Rotterdam also, and also a Feyenoord fan, so it's kind of hard to see him play so well. And I've encountered a couple of Feyenoord fans that are really happy that we just lent him away, because he's really good on the ball. He has a strong mind, and he's really calm. I have to say though, I don't really mind the defensive duo of Campi and Ivanildo, because the first game they played really good, and Ivanildo looks like a banger. But yeah, everyone has a bad game. I mean, we start the league. In the league, they don't play at all. It's just Hussein and Hosseini. But yeah, they probably thought like we already have like four center backs. There's no use for a fifth one if we have to rotate, and that's why they lent him away. Let's hope we get him back after a year and he's like much better.
Yeah, I don't think there's an option to buy, so he'll be back next year. And if he has a good season with Feyenoord, you basically have a prepped defender ready for next season. Burak, anything to add on this match?
No, I agree with Yakup. I thought the penalty shout that happened outside the box, but it's good to see a Turkish team go through to the group stages, and may you do well and help the country's coefficient points.
And it once again also emphasizes the fact that VAR is just a necessity, I think, in these qualifiers too, because, you know, I mean, makes the difference between a couple of extra million a year and we're not going to go into it now, but some news came out today in regards to the TFF, financial fair play stuff with the club's budgets and things like that. So we'll be discussing that hopefully down the line with some people who are have more of an expertise in that. But there's, you know, every bit of money counts right now for all the Turkish clubs, it seems like. But let's move over to Matchday 3 results in the Turkish Super League. On Friday, Kasimpasa and Ankaragucu opened up the match day, and that match ended 1-0 in favor of Ankaragucu. The goal here coming in the 23rd minute through Ilhan Parlak. And a point of note here is that Ricardo Quaresma made his debut for Kasimpasa, coming on at halftime as a substitute, replacing Yusuf Erdogan. And he was basically responsible for the main source of danger from Kasimpasa in the second half. All in all, Özer, did you feel like this was a fair result? Did Kasimpasa deserve to lose their third straight game, or was it a flattering win for Ankara?
Well, I think a draw would have probably been a fair result, to be honest. I mean, I caught the highlights of this game, and one of the things that stood out for me was the superb goal from Ilhan Parlak, really kind of like leaping out of the water like a salmon into the air, and really classy header there. Quaresma made a few good crosses, a few good flashy passes when he came on as well. So I think that, you know, they should be fine going forward. I think that 1-0 perhaps on balance did flatter Ankaragucu, although I want them to do well. So versus especially when they're playing guys like Kasimpasa who have no fans. So yeah, I'm happy with the result as a neutral. Also, Fatih Öztürk, the goalkeeper. What do we think of his dreadlocks, by the way? He looks like a young Craig David to me. Burak, did you notice that?
You know what? Now you've said it, I can. So thank you. And for the rest of our fans, we'll have to fill them in.
Oh, very good.
Okay. Maybe you should.
Maybe we should have a little sound clip from the song to just interject that bit, as long as we don't get sued by any copyright holders.
But interesting enough, Ankaragucu were, I think, tipped as one of the top relegation candidates before the season started, mainly because of their transfer ban, losing a lot of their best players. Their transfer ban did not get lifted, so they didn't get a single new player. They only managed to extend existing deals, or I believe the only transfer they actually could do was Kitsiu because he was on loan, and I guess they had an option or something. So that's the kind of stuff that did slip through the cracks. I believe Chelsea did something similar as well with their transfer ban, but they had a player on loan with option to buy, and apparently that's a little bit of a way around. But Ankaragucu were definitely tipped as one of the main contenders for relegation, so to speak. But they're on 5 points, unbeaten still after 3 matches. For example, Besiktas and Galatasaray already have a loss, so that's not a bad start for Ankaragucu. And Kasimpasa, on the other hand, 0 points still. Is that something that surprises you, Burak?
Not really. I mean, they lost Trezeguet, and he was one of their main sources of assists and danger. Quaresma came on. He made some good crosses. I think one of them led to a head hit in the bar as well. But I think Kasimpasa will struggle this season, personally. potential candidates for relegation after losing that dynamic duo of Jugnet and Trezeguet from last season. So I just think they need to. I know they've made a few signings, so if they can bed them in and they start to play well and click, but I think they'll definitely finish bottom half of the table this season.
Yeah, what do you think, Yakup? They're the only team remaining with 0 points right now. From what you've seen of them so far, do you think that that's just a minor glitch right now, or is it something that's going to be a continuous trend throughout the season that they'll struggle to pick up points?
I mean, they lost a lot of their attacking prowess when they lost Trezeguet. And, a player like Jugnet, even though he was hated by a lot of Galatasaray fans and they're happy that he's gone, isn't easily replaced in Turkey, I don't know if getting Quaresma is going to be a good thing. I know from a lot of Besiktas fans that he's a really polarizing figure. Some like him because he's really flashy, and some hate him because he has like 40 crosses a game and like 2 of them land. I don't know. It's kind of difficult to say. You never know with Turkish football. They might have again a gem in their hands with a Giagni-like player, but I don't know. I don't see them relegating this season, but I might be proven wrong.
And the correction, of course, they have 1 point because actually they got a draw against the Trabzonspor on Matchday run. It's Gençlerbirliği who are still on 0 points.
Of course, they got a point against us.
But more of that later. The other match on Friday was Kayserispor Galatasaray, and this was a spectacular game, a controversial game. Lots of stuff going on here. 4 red cards, I believe, a penalty, 2 disallowed goals, and 5 goals split between the two of them. Kayseri scoring twice, Galatasaray scoring 3. The last one of which coming in the 9th minute of stoppage time. But let's go over the scoreline quickly. So Pedro Henrique had opened the scoreline for Kayserispor in the first half, put them in front. That was the halftime scoreline as well. Then Ryan Babel had a goal disallowed for offside, correct decision. Then in the 56th minute, Ayman Abdennour received his second yellow card in the 65th minute. His first one was in the 54th minute. That was also a penalty. First referee didn't award the penalty, but VAR intervened, and the referee went on and checked Red Manolo and awarded the penalty. Correct decision again. I personally thought the yellow card wasn't a correct decision, but I was pointed out by that according to the new rules since this season, it is correct, and he should have gotten yellow and therefore red. So that was a correct decision. Younes Belhanda converting from the penalty spot in the 66th minute. Then Pedro Henrique, the goal scorer, received his second yellow card in the 73rd minute. He had gotten a yellow card in the 70th minute. Then Ryan Babel had another goal disallowed. This one was super tight. Assist from Emre Mor. And Emre was like literally, I think, 5 centimeters offside, maximum. But it was a correct decision once again. Then Ryan Babel did get on the score sheet in the 87th minute. Another deflected shot, just like last week against Konyaspor. Then Emre Mor saw his second yellow card in the 89th minute, and he literally got 2 yellow cards in, 45 seconds. So his first yellow card was in the 89th minute, and his second was as well. So he got sent off, Galatasaray down to 10 men. In the meantime, of course, Konya were already playing with 9 men. Then Umut Bulut gets on the score sheet from the resulting free kick, I believe it was. 2-2 in the first minute of stoppage time. Then Umut Bulut gets a yellow card in the result of that because there was a VAR check there, because Marcao went down like a sack of bricks with what I can only call defensive simulation. VAR check for that. Umut Bulut got pissed off, got a yellow card for protest during the VAR check. Got a yellow card then. Then 4 minutes later, he got another yellow card for a foul on the edge of the box. Sent off, Kayseri down to 8 men. And then in the 9th minute of stoppage time, Adembuyuk puts the full-time scoreline on the scoreboard 2-3 in favor of Galatasaray. Galatasaray's first win in the 2019-2020 season following a loss on Matchday 1 against Denizlispor and a draw on Matchday 2 against Konyaspor. That's a mouthful. I feel like I've been talking for 20 minutes. Özer, it's up to you. Tell us the story about this match from your perspective.
I mean, this game had pretty much everything. It was total chaos. I spoke about this extensively as the game was going on Twitter, but Like if this game was a Shakespearean play, it would be Titus Andronicus. Probably one that a lot of people haven't heard of because it's traditionally one of his like least admired, least respected plays, much like the quality of this game was. But it's just full of graphic violence and everyone killing each other. It's just total mayhem of a play, just like this game was. How many red cards did you say there were? I can't even remember. How many yellow cards? How many VAR decisions? How many disallowed goals?
4
How many
reds, I
four,
think, right?
4 reds?
4? Yeah, 3 for Kayseri, 1 for Galatasaray, I think.
This game, I mean, it was literally totally chaotic. Probably the worst quality game of football I've ever seen, but at the same time, one of the most memorable matches that I remember. It takes me back to the Akhisar game at the end of last season, where we were just throwing everything but the kitchen sink at the goal, and we finally scored at the last second. In this case, we had from the outset, actually, before the game started, we were so desperate to get the 3 points, given the poor start that we had to the season. And as the game was going on, I just thought, wow, we're going to definitely drop points here. This is a catastrophe for us. And I just couldn't believe what I was watching in the second half, to be honest. Even when we scored the goal that put us 2-1 up, I was like, should I celebrate this? Or is the goal going to be disallowed? I don't know what's going on right now. And then it was 2-2 thanks to the free kick that was conceded by Emre Mor because of his petulance. 2 yellow cards in 10 seconds, which was absolutely terrible. He was behaving like a petulant kid. Even when he made that second yellow card to tackle on the Kayseri defender, you could just see the way he ran up to him from behind. He was like, listen, I'm going to get this guy. I've just been booked. I'm not thinking straight. I'm going to tackle this guy for whatever, because I'm pissed off. And he did it, and he got the yellow card, and almost cost his team the 3 points. So Terim needs to have a real serious talking with MMO. But then Feghouli, who I spoke about a couple of weeks ago, is emerging as my favourite Galatasaray player right now, swooped in with a delightful cross into the box, pinpoint pass into Adem Büyük's chest, who gracefully clutches it in his chest and then slides down and gives it that really sublime finish. And he just popped up, and I was just going absolutely crazy. I was locked in a meeting room at the time because I booked it out for the remainder of the second half, and I was just like jumping up about. There was frosted glass, thankfully, so nobody could see me from the other side. But I was like jumping about, jumping, going insane. So Adem Büyük'sün, and happy belated birthday, because you really deserve to party that night. Thank you so much. I've actually raved about Adem for some time, for the last few seasons. I know he's over 30 now. He's not exactly like a bright talent, but he's one of the most underrated Turkish footballers of the last few seasons. I think he's been consistently good for the clubs he's been playing for. And I'm really glad that he's got the chance now to shine at a big club. And scoring that goal must really make him feel like he's part of the Jimon family again. Because I know he had a lot of criticism from some fans when we signed him, but I think all those voices are going to be very much silenced now.
Yeah, it's just a typical Turkish chaotic game. So I was shocked at the massive mistake that Luyendama made for the first goal. I actually didn't think that the second yellow that Emre Mor got was actually a yellow. I didn't think he really touched them. And the yellow for Umut, because he was angry at Enzonzi or Marcao. I don't know which one it was. I think it was Enzonzi, acting like he got hit on the chest.
Marcao,
okay. Yeah, it was like a traditional Turkish shitfest. I haven't seen that one in a long time. After the derby games in Trabzon have died off in intensity. But I have to give props to Adem Büyük for finishing the ball. It was a really good touch, and he finished it. And I didn't really think it would go in, but yeah, that's just a game. So congrats to Galatasaray.
Yeah, I think the Marcao incident, he collapsed like he'd been shot in the back of the head by a sniper. It was really ridiculous fall, and it was very, very harsh on Umut Bulut to get the yellow there. And particularly in the first half, if you think about the referee's inconsistencies, in the first half, Belhanda, I think, could have easily seen a red card for he kind of left his foot behind on one of the guys as he was coming down, and that looked pretty. He basically kicked him.
The guy was already on the floor, and he walks past him, and he just kicks him in the back.
Right. And then he kind of makes it look kind of playful when he finally gets up. But that kind of behaviour just needs to be cut out, because he does it all the time. I don't know if this guy has a screw loose or what, but or as I've described him before as being like a Trojan horse trying to sabotage Galatasaray from within. But I was livid
Sorry to interrupt you,
action.
but I had a Galatasaray fan tell me on Twitter that's just passion, that wasn't normal. That was just the yellow card was enough there apparently for that.
No, I disagree with that completely. That's not the kind of passion I want to see. I want to see passion with the guys scoring goals, making assists, helping the team out, behaving in a way that is that justifies the colours that he's wearing, and I don't think he's doing that at all. I can't remember a single good game where it's been right. It's thanks to Belhanda that we won that game, but I don't want to go off off a tangent here.
Well, just a quick interjection on passion. I think you can have cases of passion when you're in a duel and you can lose your head for a fraction of a second when you're in the middle of a duel or something like that. When a guy is laying on the floor and you're walking behind him and then you kick him in the back, that is not passion. That is deliberately being an absolute asshole. I'm sorry, if you call that passion, you have shit in your eyes. Now, secondly, Marcao's position, I was told that was an elbow. An elbow in his chest. Burak, was that an elbow in Marcao's chest?
No, he's obviously been learning from Jagne before he left for Bruges in how to go down extremely easily. You can understand why he did it, because he's looking to fool the referee. But it was, very light contact, and he made the most of it. And, what more can I say? I don't think it was as severe as he made it out to be. Emre Mor's second yellow card. I'm not sure if he got it for dissent when he, threw his arm at the ref. So I think it was for that rather than the challenge, because I didn't think the challenge had much yellow card written all over it. Maybe the referee just wanted to send off a Galatasaray player, because I thought he lost control of the match. But it was a heated match with lots of incidents going on. So I think he kind of lost his concentration, and maybe he wanted to even the numbers up a little bit. And also the first goal that Babel had disallowed for offside, I've looked at it, and I've looked at the VAR and the lines they drew on the pitch, and that was extremely tight.
That's the second one, I think, that you're talking about now, because the first one was pretty clear.
Oh no, the offside goal where Emre Mor was offside and he played the ball in. Yeah, that was the second one. But they had the first goal disallowed as well for when Babel was offside, and he looked on to me. To be fair, so I'm not sure if his nose was offside or I thought that was an extremely tight call. But kudos to Arden Büyük. He took his goal beautifully, the chest and the finish. So what can I say? It was a chaotic game, and having watched it back, I don't think there's anything too crazy about it. I just think the referee needed to stamp his authority on it a little more. I think he's a young referee, the chap that was in charge.
Probably
so
in his mid-30s or so. I think the main issue is not really the referee here, though, because I think when we were watching this match, we're like, oh my god, this guy. I mean, I know I was livid, especially that second yellow card for Abdenur. I thought it was absolutely ridiculous, because if you look at it, what happens is he has his arm up like a stupid idiot, so no argument with the penalty, but Babel actually, his arm is already up, and Babel actually heads it into his arm, so there's no way there's no way that that's intentional, because he's got his arm up, and maybe he had initially the intention to play the ball with his arm, but clearly he didn't get it, but then the ball gets hit against his arm from super close range, so there's no way that was an intentional movement for the ball, because the arm was already there. So in my opinion, at the time, I thought, why is that yellow? He gets the ball headed against his arm, that's ball to arm, that's not a yellow card, because yellow card is supposed to be for an intentional handball. That's what I thought. I was wrong, though, because apparently since the start of this season, one of the additions to these new rules is that if you handle the ball, intentional or not, it's not important, in the box, and it's a shot that's going towards goal, a header or a shot, doesn't matter, it's always a yellow card or a penalty, unless, of course, the arm is next to your body or something. So, but if your arm is in an unnatural position, whether it's intentional or not, it's automatically a yellow card if it's going towards goal, because it's depraving the opponent of a clear goal scoring opportunity or something like that. So it was a correct decision by the referee. As for the Umut Bulut one, the first one, and the Pedro Henrique one, the first one, I think we've spoken about this in the past couple of weeks, where the referees are instructed when there's protest to give out a minimal of one card. So I don't think the referee really lost control. I think he was just following the guidelines, and Umut went to protest when they were checking VAR. And why is he doing that? That's pointless. You're trying to influence the referee's decision, I guess, but it's pointless because he's already called over. He's gonna go either way, and It's annoying because it's causing a lot of red cards in the last couple of weeks. I don't know if you guys have been noticing, there have been a lot of second yellows, and usually all of those are because of one of them at least is from protest. And there are also a lot of those are in quick succession, like within 10 minutes of each other. And they're all kind of the same, like first one's for protest, second one, they make a stupid fall or something. So, yeah, the referee, it could appear like he kind of lost control, but he really was just following the guidelines from this season, and you can't really fault him for that. It was just players just have to get used to it still, and they have to learn to stop complaining. The only player that can go up to the referee is the captain, and only in certain situations. I don't think you are ever allowed to approach the ref or complain against the fourth official or whatever when there's a VAR check. I think that's simply off limits.
All the excitement and adventure of the game aside, it is quite disappointing to think that we had to wait for Kayseri to go down to 10 men before we actually won this game in the 99th minute. 8 men, sorry. 8 men, sorry. I don't know what I was thinking there. Like I keep saying, I keep losing count of the red cards. But that's a real cause for concern. On the other side of the coin, though, that kind of desperate, chaotic football that we played at the end of last season, we're already playing now. And that's the kind of thing that kind of brings the team together in a way. So maybe it's kind of a good way to gel, especially the new transfers at this stage. So you can kind of see it in a positive way as well. But other than that, nothing else to add.
But is it going to work against 11 men, though? That's the question. Now you had basically you had a two-man advantage for 20-plus minutes.
Yeah, is it definitely a yellow card offence for what the Kayserispor player got sent off for, the Babel header that hit him on the arm? I mean, it's definitely a penalty under the new laws. Yeah. I can't find anywhere in the EFAB rules that that's a yellow cardable offence.
Well, that's the problem with the EFAB rules, is that the guidelines aren't published. They are only given out to the refs. But I think I sent you a print screen of Danny Macaulay, who explained this rule. This guideline or rule, however you want to call it, and he's the referee that was the VAR for the World Cup, I believe, so he knows. So anyway, the rule is if you handle the ball with your arm, in an awkward position, and you block a shot at goal, whether it's intentional or not intentional, it's a yellow card and a penalty. So this was correct. And I was wrong. I was firmly believing this was wrong. That I was like, penalty, okay, 100%, no argument. But yellow, that's ridiculous. And last season it would have been. This season it's not. This season is the rule. So it's definitively a correct decision. So this ref had a good game on paper, at least. Whether he lost control or not in other situations, I think the yellow cards were all correct on paper. But whether we agree with giving players a yellow straight away for a little bit of protest, that's a different matter. But we have to also agree, I think, that in Turkey especially, the protesting at times really gets out of control. So maybe this is not a bad thing.
I mean, I think that giving a yellow for protesting is a good thing. But as you said, if you start giving yellows for protesting in Turkey, you're going to end the matches with like 7 guys on the pitch. So, but the bad thing about this is it's going to lead to arguments between fans on whatever is deemed to be protesting and whatever is deemed to be, just talking to the ref, because every team has like that 2 players that just hound the ref every time the ball is stopped, and it's going to lead to a shit show in one derby. I just know it's just for sure, probably like a Fener Galatasaray derby or something.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, but I think right now, for example, I can't really think of one. For example, Galatasaray, because they don't really have Turks anymore. So, I can't really think of one of their players. Well, maybe Belhanda because he's an idiot, but the rest of them, I think, are pretty chill to a certain extent.
Emre Mor will get involved, definitely.
And
I don't think he can even speak Turkish, to be honest.
No. we always have Hasan Şaş and Ümit Davala on the side who can jump onto the field to get involved if that happens.
I think Ümit Davala actually got sent off here as
well. Yeah, he got
Yep.
sent off too.
so 5 red cards. But let's move over now to Saturday. We've spoken enough about this as referee controversy, yes or no. But anyway, I would like to apologize to Galatasaray fans if I offended you by saying that it was a ridiculous decision for that second yellow card. I was not aware of the rule change. Do have to point out, lots of Galatasaray fans were in my mentions, and everything you guys said was ridiculous. Had nothing to do with the new rules, what you guys were saying. That was not an intentional handball. It's something certain people were saying. No way in hell. And then other people were saying that it was reckless play. Don't think you know the definition of reckless.
I'm going to go and take a look at those comments. I must have missed that one.
Anyway, let's move over Saturday. Konyaspor and Antalyaspor played to a 2-2 draw. Serdar Özkan got the scoring started here in the 10th minute for the away side, scoring from a penalty kick. Then Milosevic had a goal disallowed for Konyaspor. After a handball in the build-up by that same Milosevic, he then played the ball into Riyad Bajic, I believe. The ball ended up back with Milosevic, and this was 20 seconds after the initial handball or 15 seconds after the initial handball. He scored a really nice goal, Demi Milosevic, but then got disallowed by VAR for that handball in build-up. We saw something similar last season with Vedat Muric when he was still playing for Caykur. Some of you may remember. But then Riyad Bajic actually did get on the score sheet in the 60th minute, putting scores level once again, 1-1. And in the 75th minute, 19-year-old Farouk Mira, a young Nigerian player, put Konyaspor 2-1 in front, and you think, well, Konya have this in the bag, but no, in the 84th minute, Paul Mukairu scored this 2-2 equalizer, putting the full-time scoreline on the scoreboard. Konyaspor 2, Antalyaspor 2. Konyaspor, I believe, still winless, if I'm not mistaken. They drew last week against Galatasaray. I think they also drew on Matchday 1, if I'm not mistaken. Burak, what did you think of Aykut's team right now, and what did you think of this match?
Just before they have drawn all 3 games so far.
And they haven't won at home in 8 games, by the way, apparently. Sorry to cut you off.
Yeah, that's okay. So their home form needs definitely addressing. I'm not sure what the attendance is like for them. I thought the penalty for Antalyaspor was very soft. I think Serdar Özkan got his feet tangled up with Ali Turan, and he threw himself to the ground, made the most of it to try and get the penalty, and he did. So I thought that was a very soft penalty. I thought the goal from Farouk Mira and the Antalyaspor player's goal, his name I've forgotten, both fierce shots. Looking at it, I think a draw was kind of a fair result. Great call on the VAR to rule out Milosevic's goal, which is a shame because he showed some great strength to fight off the Antalyaspor players and go through and eventually score. But that was a correct call, so that's a use of VAR that was good in that respect. Konya, I don't think they're going to hit the heady heights of last year unless they sort their home form out really and start putting together some results against teams that are around sort of their position, between like the 6th down to like the 12th, 13th position. As for Aykut, I know it's like a typical Konyaspor performance for me. A little bit of attack, some okay midfield play. They do have some good players on the pitch there, especially Farouk Mira. I think he's going to prove a handful for teams, especially if he can keep rattling off shots like he did for the 2-1 goal that he scored. But on looking at the game as a whole, I thought a draw was pretty much a fair result, and no teams have too much to complain about, although I emphasise Konya probably should feel hard done by for the penalty, and there was no players screaming out to the ref as well when Serdar Özkan went down.
Yeah, Yakup, what did you think of the penalty? Do you agree with Burak, or do you think it was a penalty?
I wasn't really quite sure if it was a penalty, but I don't know. Today with the VAR, you just have to go like, sure, it probably was a penalty, but I do think that players in Turkey seem to go down really easy. But I don't remember. I thought it was. I haven't made a note, so I probably thought it was a penalty. But no, I just see. I'm looking at my notes. I didn't see a different view. I wasn't really sure if it was a penalty, but the view was like really far from what happened. So if it was maybe a close view, we could see like a bit better. But
yeah,
that's just what it is.
We didn't get a lot of angles. From what I saw, Ali, he was already going down, and then Ali Turan, I think it was, his leg was kind of in between Serda's legs, but he was already going down at that point. So Burak may have a point. Özer, what do you think?
Yeah, I thought it was a trip actually. For me, it was a penalty. Ali Turan was just being kind of slow and clumsy with the trip, and it looked like a foul. Anywhere else, it would have been given a foul for sure. So I think the penalty is the right decision.
Well, Konyaspor, kind of, I don't know. Did we expect more from them building up back with Aykut Kocaman? They had that amazing third place finish a couple of years ago. And of course, Aykut went back to Fenerbahçe. After a year, he came back. I'm sure people at Konya expected that their meteoric rise would continue. They won the cup with Aykut, I believe. They had third place finish. They had they had like 2 years in the Europa League. Obviously, one of them wasn't with Aykut, but yeah, just generally speaking, do you think they'll be disappointed with Aykut's return so far, or do you think Konyaspor's fans are kind of satisfied with where they are at the moment, Burak?
I think they probably are reasonably satisfied, but expecting a little bit more. I don't think they can expect a great deal of very good things, especially with the rise of the other teams from Anadolu around us, like the likes of Alanyaspor, who are currently the league leaders, Antalya as well. They played well last season, so I think they're going to struggle to get into that top 8 this season, personally, and I think the fans should really lower their expectations.
Okay, let's move over to the other match on Saturday. Well, the 2 more matches on Saturday, actually. Göztepe playing Denizlispor. Denizlispor were one of a few teams, actually, that still were on maximum points. They had 6 points out of their first 2 matches. Göztepe, I believe, they had lost twice, if I'm not mistaken, so they were still on 0 points. So this match ended in a 0-0 draw, but it could have been very different. First and foremost, one of the highlights was Hugo Rodayega's disallowed goal. He basically went around the goalkeeper Beto, but there was some kind of collision. I think he might have hit him slightly in the head or something. He went around the goalkeeper, scores, goal got disallowed by VAR. Then a little bit later in the 73rd minute, Thiago Lopez saw his second yellow card after he initially had gotten booked in the 38th minute, and that was a penalty was awarded. Soner Aydoğdu stepped up to the plate, but for the 3rd week in a row, Polish goalkeeper Adam Stachowiak saved a spot kick. It also, of course, means that for the 3rd week in a row, Denizlispor have given away a penalty. So Stachowiak, an absolute penalty killer right now, 3 for 3. That's phenomenal from his part. But Denizlispor, that's going to sooner or later end up biting them in the ass, giving away all those penalties. Göztepe will feel hard done not to have won this match. Should have scored that penalty, of course. Should have gotten their first 3 points. Özer, I'm going to throw to you first because I know you have a special place in your heart for Göztepe.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you mentioned before about Konyaspor's fans expecting and wanting more from their team. I think it's definitely true for Göztepe. Because as we say week in, week out, they have everything in place to be a successful club, but they're just not firing in all cylinders. In fact, they're firing in like 2 cylinders, you know. Göztepe have been really disappointing at the end of last season and have started this season pretty poorly as well. I think in this game, particularly Rodayega's goal was unfairly disallowed by VAR. I looked at it a million times and I just couldn't really see enough meaningful contact on Beto's face. It looked to me like he was holding his face because to hide from his shame, because he came so far out and he totally messed up the save, and Rodayega just tapped it in fair and square. So I think Göztepe were actually lucky to get away with this one. there was a foul on Yasin Öztekin shortly after that too, which in the penalty box, where he was also hit in the face by a Denizli defender using his arm or whatever. That to me looked like that could have been given a penalty, but the ref didn't even go to VAR that time. So again, another inconsistency there. But Göztepe at home struggling again. I'm worried that we're not seeing them firing on all cylinders this early on in the season. I was hoping they were going to start the season with a bit more flair.
He needs more Cameron Jerome.
Yeah. Where is this guy? What's he been up to? Because the only player I'm seeing who's of any quality is it Akpınar? Halil Akpınar, who's a player I really like. I think he's very underrated. But yeah, the Cameron Jerome effect is not anywhere to be seen.
No, it's real. It's a
thing.
It's a curse, that Burak put on Göztepe last season after Cameron Jerome, I think, got somebody sent off, a Fenerbahçe player or something. Wasn't there something like that, Burak?
It was something like that, but hashtag Cameron Jerome effect. And I don't think he was even on the bench this weekend, so I don't know what's happened to him. He's probably out at the beach somewhere.
Yeah,
probably still holidaying in Cheshire.
So two big talking points here. One, the Hugo Rodallega disallowed goal. And then, of course, the missed penalty. Yakup, most importantly, that Rodallega goal, what did you feel like? Was that a correct decision to disallow that? Was there a foul on Beto?
Nah, if we didn't have VAR, I would have thought like, okay, he couldn't see it because it was like a bit far from him. But after seeing it in VAR from a different angle, it never should have been disallowed. It as one of you guys said, I don't remember which one. I think Beto just went to the ground and was like, oh fuck, I didn't get this one, and let me act like I got hit in the face, and it was like just a little bit of water that splashed off of the pitch.
Yeah, 100% agree.
Yeah, that goal should just have counted.
Yeah, for to me it even looked like he was like face palming, like, oh, what did I do? I didn't get the ball or something. More like that rather than he got hit in the face. Burak, what did you think?
I think it was ridiculous. Rodallega just wanted to go past Beto to get the ball, and his South American rear end just happened to hit him because it's so big and muscular. That's not his fault. He's built that way. So, like I say, Beto, I think the goal, he benefited from goalkeepers getting the benefit of the doubt in these sort of occasions. They seem to be untouchable for some reason, but he didn't intentionally barge him out of the way. He just wanted to run past him to get the ball and put it in the back of the net. So I think Denizli can feel hard done by. I think Yasin at the end just showing what, pisslick that he is, trying to dive and get the penalty. Never liked him. Horrendous haircut. And I thought the penalty that Göztepe got was soft as well, personally. The guy seemed to do like a gymnastics somersault after he got a bit of contact to try and fool the ref, and it worked. So for me, that wasn't a penalty. That was another soft one. So I'm glad that the Denizlispor keeper saved it.
Let's move over to Besiktas against Caykur Rizespor. This match ended all square, 1-1. The opening goal was scored here by Olcan Çağlayan, a fantastic little trivela finish from Olcan Çağlayan. It was really, if you haven't seen it, go out of your way to check it out. It was a fantastic goal. Of course, the week that Besiktas sent Quaresma packing, they conceded trivela goal. It must be karma of some sort. But then Domagoj Vida pulls things level in the 53rd minute. And then you think Besiktas will surely find a winner in the remaining 40 or so minutes, but there was one really big opportunity for George Kevin Nkudu, but he somehow managed to blast it over from really close range. It was probably the miss of the season so far. But this match ended all square, and the main talking points coming out of this match was Victor Ruiz with a potential penalty fall on one of the Rize players. I forgot who it was, but basically the guy headed the ball past Ruiz, and then he kind of he bumped into Ruiz's arm. I don't necessarily think Ruiz could have gone anywhere, but his arm was up, so that's kind of interesting, something worth of discussing. And then, of course, in the 3rd minute of stoppage time, Nkudu got a yellow card. Should it have been red? That's the big question being asked right now, because of course last week we saw John Michael Siri of Galatasaray getting sent off for something very similar. And then a couple of minutes later, Nkudu already on a yellow card, basically steps on the back of Gökhan Akan, the goalkeeper's foot, while racing for the ball at near the corner flag. So that could have easily been a second yellow card that wasn't given. Apart from that, before I'm going to give the word to you guys, I thought Besiktas were very impressive in the first half. Their pressing was Borussia Dortmund-esque, almost Barcelona-esque, but not that advanced, but definitely Borussia Dortmund-esque, where they were recovering almost every single ball within 5 seconds. Their average recovery time of the balls was of possession was 5.8 seconds, and that probably was that high because after the 30th minute mark or so, it lapsed a little bit, but in the first half hour, it was phenomenal. I've never really seen that from a Turkish team before, not even Başakşehir, who Abdullah Avcı coached before. So it's very clear what Avcı is trying to implement at Besiktas. It's going to take a little while, but it looks very promising. Defensively, Besiktas have looked quite solid now for the last 2 games, even against Sivasspor, where they conceded 3. Defensively, they look quite good. But all 3 of those goals were individual errors from one from midfield, one from the goalkeeper, and then one from Quaresma, who doesn't know how to mark. But the central duo looks good. The fullbacks look decent. Defensively, organization-wise, it all looks decent. But Besiktas have a problem scoring goals right now. That's their main issue. Burak Yilmaz, of course, still injured. That's a huge issue. All in all, I don't know what you. Who have you watched the full game? I know, Burak, I think you watched it. What did you think of Besiktas' gegenpressing in the first half?
I thought it was very impressive. Everyone is working very hard. I think Avcı has got them very well drilled. I know you mentioned it a few times. Ball recovery was very good for them. Often that's what Guardiola imposed at Barcelona to his players. If you lose the ball, you have to win it back within 5 to 10 seconds. And I think so. I don't know what kind of conditioning they're doing and if they can keep that up for a full 90 minutes over the course of a season. But I could say impressed. Caner got himself another assist from his new type of role where he drifts into the centre a little bit more. I think Ruiz, that was a forearm to the Rizespor player's face. That was straight out of the Khabib Nurmagomedov playbook from the UFC. And I thought he was very lucky not to get sent off personally for that. And let's say Nkudu, he should have been sent off. Now, whether that would have been a combination of 2 yellow cards, a straight red card for the first challenge, he was lucky to end the game on the pitch. But if Avcı can make some more tweaks and you can, try and get someone to score some goals for you, try and get Burak back as soon as possible, I think it should be a decent season for Besiktas. I think just the conditioning is going to be the telltale as well, and whether the players can keep up this style of play.
Yeah, and there were also a couple of positions in the first half where Besiktas fans especially were claiming a penalty. I watched the full game, but at the time I remember one of them was where Vida went up for a corner and maybe got a slight push or something. I never really felt like that was a clear penalty. I don't know if one of those. I think people were talking about 3 penalty positions. I honestly can't really think of ones that super stood out, except for that Vida one, and I didn't really think that was a penalty. Don't know if Burak, if you saw something.
I thought Lens was a right. I think he was having his shirt or his shorts tugged quite, evidently, and you could see it on the replay that the Rizespor player had a handful of his kit. So usually that gets picked up on by the referees, and especially VAR, because you can't do that in the penalty area. And I think Rizespor were lucky. Was it in the box
though? Because I wasn't clear on that. I did see a clip of that, but I don't. That's the thing. I don't remember it from watching the game live, and then I saw the clip pass by, on Twitter or something. But I don't know if it was actually in the box. It's one of those things where you remember a couple of weeks ago with the Ryan Babel handball in the wall, and then that gets talked about that was a penalty and stuff, and I don't remember exactly if that was actually in the area, because in those clips you don't see if it's in the area, you just see what's happening. And obviously that was a clear handball, and obviously Lens getting tucked down was pretty obvious. But if that's in the box, then there's a possibility for a VAR check. If it's outside the box, there's not going to be a VAR check for that because it's just a free kick.
It was in the box, so I thought you were unlucky not to get the penalty there.
Özer, your thoughts on Besiktas's pressing game in the first half?
My thoughts on the pressing game: red card. It was 100%. It was 100% a red card, and I was absolutely shocked that it wasn't given. To be honest, it was a very reckless tackle, horrid tackle. His foot was planted, and then just a few moments after that, he attacked the Rizespor goalkeeper. So, and the ref kind of went up to him as if to say, "What the hell are you doing?" But then didn't show him another card. So I don't know how Nkudu got away with all that stuff, but. Maybe he hasn't played much football in the last 2 years, so maybe he's just a little bit rusty of the rules. But as for Besiktas's pressing, I think it's if Abdou can get this to become like a sustainable part of the team's gameplay, it will be interesting to see, because he had a lot of time at Başakşehir to kind of implement this style of play. I don't know if he's going to be given that kind of time, that kind of patience, or if even the players are of that same kind of ability to kind of pull through what he wants to achieve there. So I don't know. It's the kind of thing that it's really quite straightforward to get through in a couple of games, but can you keep it up for the rest of the season? That's going to be interesting.
I think it's more a case of whether can you get it drilled into the team. I think the point is, in the beginning, it's not going to work as well as you think. I think it's... Remember when Prandelli was trying to implement a 3-man back line and stuff like that? I remember...
Yeah, and that's right. And Mancini tried it as well, but it was nothing. We could only keep it going for like a couple of months before it all fell apart.
Yeah, and I remember Bernd Schuster tried doing it at Besiktas too, and the problem with it was back then we had the foreign limit restrictions, and the main issue I think was the Turkish players just didn't get it. I think now with more foreign players and then you have disciplined guys like Gökhan Gönül, I think that what we've seen so far is been impressive, especially in this match. I don't remember ever seeing a Turkish club being able to pull that off so effectively. But of course, like Burak pointed out, rightfully so, can they keep it up for 90 minutes? I don't actually think you necessarily have to do that for 90 minutes. I think if you manage to do that in, let's say you manage to do that in most games for 60, 70 minutes, you'll probably be up 2-0 by that point. Obviously, right now, Besiktas having some trouble scoring, but if you can be more efficient, score goals, while doing that and keeping it up for 60, 70 minutes, I think you will probably have won the match already at that point, and you can probably relax a little bit more, sit a little bit back, and try and hit the opponent on the counter. Ideally, of course. Yakup, your thoughts on everything? Nkudu, should he have gotten a straight red, and everything, what we just talked about?
Yeah, I think he should have gotten a straight red, but people, when you try to say to people like, I don't know, this one should be a red card because he pretty much stepped on his shin, they go like, oh no, but he was challenging for the ball and he was too late. Okay, but he still stepped on somebody's shin, you know? I think it should be a red card because, I remember this happening to Trabzonspor against Besiktas when Quaresma did this on Yusuf and he got a yellow card, and it still pisses me off. It was like 4 years ago, I think. But aside from that, I don't think that Nkudu should have been able to stay on the pitch because he had like a thing with the Konyaspor, with the keeper of Caykur, which also should have been a yellow. But I don't know, maybe the ref thought that if I give a red card in Istanbul, probably might not have a good end. So I don't know. I think he should have been sent off the first time, but afterwards he should have definitely been sent off after his challenge on the keeper.
Okay, now I'm going to point out exactly why. I think you guys have a good point, by the way. The first challenge could have definitely been a red card, but now some people are asking why wasn't there a VAR check, and I'm going to answer that. The reason last week we saw John Michael Siri get sent off, initially he got a yellow card, but then VAR called in the referee, he had to go and check, and they gave him a red card. And the question that has come now is, okay, why did that happen to Siri? Why didn't it happen to Nkudu? Answer is very simple. Nkudu stepped on his ankle, Siri stepped higher on the shin. And the thing is, when you give a yellow card for stepping on someone's ankle, then the logic is following: is there a clear error or not? With a high boot, there is a clear error, so you can call in the referee for VAR to give a red card, yes or no. That's still up to the ref, of course. But here, the interpretation is down to the referee. Was it really reckless? Because, like Yakup said, many people argue, well, he's going for the ball, but yes, he still stepped on his shin. Now, the thing is, if your foot is low enough, there's a lesser probability of injury, and I know that can be a little bit counterintuitive, but look at it this way. If you step on somebody's ankle, that's a joint, and a joint is going to bend. If you step on somebody's shin, that's a bone. A bone doesn't bend, so a bone will break quicker than an ankle will. So the probability of injury is higher. So the guideline that the referees are given, if the contact is above the ankle, the higher the contact, the more likely you'll have to hand out a red card.
Well,
now,
this is totally insane. If you were to step on somebody's foot, which is below the ankle, in a malicious way, you're going to get a red card straight away. Whether it's the whole joint bone thing is if this happened to your player, you would be screaming for a red card, rightly so. I think it's almost impossible to justify this on a kind of technicality on.
I'm not justifying it. I'm explaining
I'm saying the rule.
Why VAR
I'm
did
saying
not intervene here.
Well, there needs to be. I mean, this is a ridiculous rule if that's the case, because you could break someone's toe and get away with it,
yeah,
and you won't
can
even
break
get VAR checked.
someone's toe by just stepping on their toe per accident too. That's not a red card either. There's a reason.
I mean, I think the rational way that I think the way that they think is, okay, football is it's a contact sport. You know, if you keep giving red cards to people just stepping on shins, I think this is their way of thinking. You know, it would take off. You know, because people always duel for the ball, and like mishaps like this happen a lot. You know, maybe not every game, but more than like if someone had their foot up like at someone's chest. So maybe that's the reasoning, not per se the joint versus bone thing, but it's a game played with with your feet, you know. So I don't think maybe that's the thing.
The reason is, you know, you're like you said, this is a game played with your feet. You have two people vying for the ball. You're both gonna go for that ball with your feet. So if the one guy touches the ball before the other guy, it happens a lot. Then the other guy steps on the guy's foot. But when you step on somebody's shin, that's not normal that your foot is that high when you're trying to challenge for the ball.
Yeah, I think the way is like accidents like that could happen, but if you kick someone in the balls for accident, that one is just a step too far, you know.
Yeah,
and
of course, but that's violence. That's something completely different.
Yeah, but you can't blame that on an accident. You can blame something like overstepping and stepping on somebody's shin as an accident, you know?
Yeah, but then, like I said, the higher your foot goes, the higher the probability for an injury is how they see it. Plus, I mean, look, when you're vying for a ball that's on the floor and your foot is 30 centimeters off the ground, what's your foot doing there? You know?
Yeah,
it's not a normal place for it.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Gentlemen, I have the EFAB rules up in front of me.
The law is coming.
As you know,
run for the law.
I am a man of the law, and let's talk about serious foul play. A tackle or challenge that endangers the safety of an opponent or uses excessive force or brutality must be sanctioned as serious foul play. Any player who lunges at an opponent in challenging for a ball from the front, from the side, or from behind using one or both legs with excessive force or endangers the safety of an opponent is guilty of serious foul play. Serious foul play is punishable by a red card. And George Nkudu, j'accuse, you are guilty of serious foul play.
Bravo, here.
Now here are the IFAB guidelines for the referees, because, like I said before, guidelines and the actual rules are not the exact same thing.
Guidelines.
I'm going to have to translate this because I got this from Dutch, but it's about coming in a dangerous manner and the risk you take on a serious injury, like is being said in in the IFAB rules. So I showed both the Siri position last week, and I showed this one both in real time. The videos I sent them through, and the answer here to that was this was from a Dutch referee from Holland, by the way. Stuff like this happens in the Eredivisie 2. He said both could be red, but the second one, which was Siri's position, is more red, so to speak. But with the first one, if the referee has already given a yellow card, VAR is not going to intervene because it's not a clear error. But the second one is a dark red card, and VAR is going to intervene. Well, dark red, whatever, which is the Siri one, which has to do with the fact that the ball is that the foot is higher, so the risk to a serious injury is more significant. So it was a correct decision by the referee. Can't say more than that, guys. Sorry. Same guy who explained to me exactly why the yellow card for Abdenur was the right decision. Now, what this means is if the referee gives a red card to Nkudu, there wouldn't be a VAR interjection either. So it's not like if the ref gives a yellow there, a red there, VAR wouldn't intervene and say, hey, look, maybe that's a little harsh, because that can happen too. Sometimes a referee gives a red card, but VAR says, look, no, I think you got it wrong. That wouldn't happen here. So this is definitely a case where Nkudu could have easily gotten a direct red card for the first challenge, and he of course always has to get a second yellow card for stepping on Gökhan's heel. So should Nkudu have gotten sent off in this match? 100%. The question is, was there an issue here with VAR? Because that's always the discussion. Why did VAR intervene on Siri? Why did he not intervene here on Nkudu? And the answer is what I just gave to you, basically, because this is not a clear error. Last week was a clear error for the reasons I've just stated. So should Nkudu have gotten sent off? Of course. No argument there.
And I think, and you need to start calling Siri by his correct name, not Siri, which is the Apple voice-activated helper.
Okay, Brugge, then, motherfucker. Not Bruges. And then, of course, the Ruiz position. I was very curious about that, because when I was seeing, I was like, why was there no VAR check? And I think there was actually a VAR check, because there was a pause, and then nothing would happen to it. So I'm curious what you guys think about why there wasn't an intervention by VAR on that position, because like Burak said, he definitely had his arm up. Now, the only thing I can think of is because the guy kind of ran into him, but still, he definitely makes a movement with his arm. And I think it's in the box as well. And there was a VAR check, I think. So what do you guys think is the rational explanation for why VAR did not intervene there? Özer, I'm going to hand it to you.
I have no rational explanation when it comes to anything that concerns VAR, I'm afraid. My comments for this game just were simply red card, which I wrote using a red pen. And I didn't have any other comments about any other major positions. But like I said in season 1 at great lengths, I'm not a fan of VAR. I think it intervenes too much in the natural flow of the game. It undermines the ability of the referee to make right decisions. I think they rely too much on it. So that's why VAR comes into action too often. And yeah, I don't know if it's worth analysing every single position on why VAR came in or didn't come in, but I don't have too much to say on this particular position.
Yakup, what did you think of the Ruiz position?
I mean, I agree that I don't know that I think that I don't know why VAR didn't do something about it. It looked like it wasn't an elbow, it was like his forearm to the throat. But I don't think it was a penalty though. It seemed to be just outside of the box, like really couple centimeters outside of the box. But I haven't watched the whole game. I have only watched the highlights. I don't know why he did that though. It didn't make much sense. Seems like a good defender, but it seems like a really dumb move for such a good defender.
Yeah, I think he was gonna run into him anyway. So why put up your arm? Why put yourself in that position? You know, and probably that maybe explains it. If it was outside the box, then VAR was probably checking was it inside the box, and if it was inside the box, then probably they would have come in between and would have awarded a penalty. I don't think it was a red card though, Burak. Like you said, it was not an elbow. It's a forearm lifted up. I mean, it's not like he punched him in the face, so probably a yellow card position. And again, that probably explains why no VAR then. But if it's in the box, I think it's a penalty always. Burak, what did you think?
It's definitely a foul though.
Yeah, for 100%. Burak, did you think it was in the box?
Well, the Ruiz forearm.
Yeah.
Well, I thought it was in the box, and like I say, it was straight out of the Khabib Nurmagomedov UFC playbook.
So that's the question now: is it in the box or not? I think if it's in the box, then it probably wasn't, because otherwise you would imagine VAR would have said something, because there was a VAR check, so they probably constated that it was outside the box then. Anyway, let's move on. Besiktas get a point. They'll be disappointed, but at the end of the day, they could have easily lost this match if, for example, that was in the box. And they could have been down a player. Nkudu should have always gotten sent off, whether it's a direct red or 2 yellow cards. I'm going to leave that up in the air, but he should always have been sent off. Let's move over to Sunday results then. On the earlier match on Sunday, Gençlerbirliği squared off with Başakşehir. Başakşehir were still winless after 2 losses, of course, one in the last minute last week against Fenerbahçe. And on match day 1, of course, they lost 3-0 to Yeni Malatyaspor. Gençlerbirliği as well, winless still. And they will remain so, and they remain the only team in the league winless, because this match ended 1-2 in favor for Başakşehir, despite the fact that Gençlerbirliği were the team that took the lead in the first half. But before that, there was actually a penalty awarded by referee Cüneyt Çakır in the 16th minute, but VAR intervened, called him over, and resulting from that was that Enzo Crivelli had, was adjudged to have committed simulation, so he received a yellow card. The penalty decision was overturned and the match continued. Bogdan Stanku then got the scoring started for Gençlerbirliği, but his goal was disallowed. I'm not 100% clear if there was a foul or a handball or if it was offside. Didn't look at it multiple times actually. Bad homework from me. Then in the 36th minute, Giovanni Ghiancio put Gençlerbirliği, what a mouthful, put Gençlerbirliği 1-0 up in the 36th minute. But then in the 83rd minute, Başakşehir won another penalty. This one was not overturned. Dembaba stepped up, converted, and put the 1-1 score sheet on the scoreboard. Then in the 90th minute, Edin Visca finally does something right this season and gets a goal and puts Başakşehir 2-1 up, and that was a full-time scoreline. Başakşehir get their first 3 points, their first points period of the season. Gençlerbirliği remain on 0, as I already pointed out. Yakup, I'm going to point to you first. What were your general thoughts on this match?
I really like İrfan Can. I like the way he plays. He dribbles really nicely, and he keeps his head up compared to a lot of Turkish players who just concentrate on the ball. I like the way that Gençlerbirliği positioned themselves. They had some great build-up play. I'm starting to get more and more pissed off because of the VAR. Especially in this game, it looked like they intervened like every 10 minutes. It almost seemed like that. But yeah, Başakşehir, after losing Abdullah Avcı and keeping key players as İrfan Can and Visca, it's kind of weird to see them play not be as good as last year. It's to be fair, it's like 3 games, but I think they'll return to their form eventually.
I thought Başakşehir were quite lucky to get the winner in the last minute with the goal by Visca. But it's you could say maybe it's a potential return to form now for Visca after he had that miss last week. It's Başakşehir, isn't it? Who likes them really? Come on, guys. I know we've sourced a Başakşehir fan, but I don't think they're going to be anywhere near the title race this season, and they're going to struggle to get into the European places.
Yeah, Özer, what do you think about Başakşehir? Is this like their one season too many? Is Okan Buruk kind of set up for failure early on?
Potentially, yeah. I think they're worn out mentally. I don't think they've got the capacity to reach or the stamina to reach the heady heights of last season. And I think Genç really to be on 0 points at this stage is kind of not very reflective of their performance. I think they played some good football over the last 3 games, and I think they need to. I don't know what's really missing for them to start converting these into points, but in terms of gameplay, they're not too bad. And I actually thought they were going to win this game, to be honest.
Yeah, I think mainly discipline. First 2 matches they got red cards, and then of course here they give away that penalty. So I think they just have to sharpen their defense a little bit, be more careful, more disciplined. Don't take those stupid red cards and don't give away stupid penalties. Let's move over to Sivasspor against Gazişehir. Gazişehir, of course, after match day 1 losing. Was it 5-1? 5-0, I think, against Fenerbahçe. So we all kind of thought like, ooh, this doesn't look too good for them. But then they got a win last week, and now they got another point because they get a 1-1 draw in Sivas. Patrick Tuamesi getting the score. Getting the scoring started in the 35th minute, putting Gazişehir 1-0 up. But Aruna Kone, coming off the bench, scored the equalizer for Sivasspor in the 72nd minute. Not a lot of controversy, not a lot to talk about in terms of positions, I think. Sivasspor played a good match. Emre Kılınç, probably man of the match, but didn't get on the score sheet. Quick thoughts on this match, Burak?
I thought it was a really good goal for Gazişehir. He fooled the keeper quite well at the near well, almost like he gave him the eyes that he was going to go the other way and then put it into the near post. I don't think the Sivas penalty claim or wasn't a penalty. The guy's arm was in a natural position by his side as the ball came in off his knee. So I don't think that was a correct call on my behalf. But yeah, I mean, Gazişehir have shown that maybe they do have the chops about them to stay up this season. They've got a good, strong team. I know they've signed loads of players, and so the manager's trying to get them to gel. But I think they'll prove quite tough for a lot of the other Anadolu teams in the league, just because they've got a very strong team. They might resort to some dirty tactics along the way, a lot of muscling people off the ball, shirt tugging, pulling, etc. I expect them to get a few more red cards this season. But yeah, a decent showing from Gazişehir, I thought.
Yeah, they signed a bunch of players. They were linked with Manuel Fernandes recently as well, but it looks like they're not going to sign him.
No, he signed with Krasnodar.
Oh, did he? Okay, well there you go. Yeah, I mean, not really much to add for them. I think they're adding a little bit of colour to the league, and yeah, they had quite an adventurous rise into the Super League. I think from memory last year. Did they win the playoffs? They won the playoffs against who was it? I don't remember now. But yeah, they play some interesting football.
Yeah, it's really Gaziantepspor
rebranded.
Version
Exactly.
2.0.
Exactly.
And they have some interesting players for sure. I think against Fenerbahçe it was just a case of being 3-0 down after like 20 minutes or something. So, but they don't look like a bad side. Yakup, your quick thoughts on this match?
I mean, the only real thought I had was like, oh my God, Kone is still playing. I remember him playing for PSV like 10 plus years ago.
Yeah, with the blonde hair.
Yeah. The goal that he made, I thought that the keeper should have caught that one. It was like a really weird one. Couple questionable decisions by Hüseyin Göçek, but as you guys already said, I really like the game. It was really that goal. It was really just a lot of action.
And I think that's a lot said about this match. Let's head over to the main event of match day 3. Fenerbahçe, Trabzonspor, arguably the 2 best teams in the league right now. Playing to a 1-1 draw. Fenerbahçe here getting the scoring started in the 17th minute through Gary Rodriguez. But Kalip Ekuban put the equalizer on the score sheet just 10 minutes later. And that would end up being the full-time scoreline, but it wasn't a boring game at all. It was back and forth. I counted 7, including the goals, 7 good goal scoring opportunities for Fenerbahçe. I counted 3 for Trabzonspor. There were also potential penalties, 1 for Fenerbahçe, 1 for Trabzonspor. Burak, I'm going to throw to you first. Your thoughts, please, on this match.
I thought it was a great game for the neutral to watch. First half, Fenerbahçe, we sprinted out of the blocks, attacking down the wings, some good passing. Emre doing a good job in the midfield. Max Kruse doing a good job as we got up front, being a little bit of an anchor and pivoting and playing the ball out to the wings. I think we deservedly took the lead. A great ball in from Mad Max from the left. A good finish by Gary with his nice little driving Mario Kart celebration, whatever he's doing. The penalty shout that we had, I've looked at it lots of times, and for me, under the rules, that's a penalty for me. I know we might be discussing that a little bit later on. And I thought we dominated the first half, but obviously Trabzon hit us on the break. Great cross by Donis and an excellently taken header by Ekuban. Like I say, a game of the goalkeepers. I thought Uğurcan made some great saves, and Altay made some great saves in one-on-one situations. He stood up, didn't go to ground too quickly, made his body big, almost putting off the attackers as they went through to shoot on goal. I thought second half we tired, especially with a tiring Emre Belözoğlu. Trabzonspor really came into their own in the second half and really pressed us. It could have gone either way at the end, to be fair. Either team could have won it. But I think looking at the 1-1, even though Fenerbahçe were the more dominant team in their second half, we were still put under pressure by Trabzon in their counter-attacks. And we have to remember they're playing without Abdülkadir Ömür, who's arguably one of their best players for creativity. And they're still missing Daniel Sturridge, of course, who's yet to come into the team. We're still playing with makeshift defence, who are doing okay, but you could see their frailties against a class team like Trabzon. Maybe they're okay for the games for our first 2 games that we played, but they were really stretched, and you could see that showing. In the end, I think 1-1 is a fair result. If you had said Fenerbahçe deserved to win, of course I would agree, just because we had more possession and we played more passes. But you can play all the passes you want. If you can't put the ball in the back of the net, then it counts for nothing, really. We wasted some great goal-scoring chances, especially with Tolga Ciğerci. When he was through on goal, he should have squared it to his teammate, but he saw the headlines and the headlights, the flash before his eyes, and he went for a shot. So after his great pass last week for the Vedat Muric goal, he was left wanting. But he's had an okay game, time. It's good to see him playing his football. I thought the support from the fans was great. It's good to see Ali Koç and Ahmet Ağaoğlu shake hands before the game. There's been a bit of bad blood between Fener and Trabzon throughout the years. But it was good to see the chairman almost making a statement before the game started. And I think we head into the international break, and hopefully we'll get the transfers in place and get them playing together. But a great match. Very nervous whilst watching it, and what can I say? Disappointed to only come away with a point, but also happy that we didn't lose. But in the grand scheme of things, those are the types of games that we really should be winning if we want to end the season as champions. But it's no shame to draw against a team like Trabzon in that manner. I look forward to the revanche at the Avni
Akiazi, or Şenol Güneş Stadium, or whatever you want to call it, but it's not Avni Aker anymore.
Well, spiritually, it will always be Avni Aker. So,
Yakup, your thoughts? A 1-1 draw in Kadıköy, never a bad result, but did you feel that there was more in it?
No, yeah. I before the game started, I thought like this wouldn't go really well. We were obviously missing Abdülkadir Ömür, and the team is really tired after playing like four matches in 15 days or something. I expected Fenerbahçe to put on the pressure in the first couple of minutes, because that's just the way Ersun Yanal pushes his players to play, especially in big matches. And I was pretty afraid the first couple of minutes, and I thought, well, as long as this keeps going like this, it's going to be a massacre. But it didn't really. I imagined watching the game that if we had a shot on goal, that it would be a goal immediately, like the first shot we had, and that seems to be proven right. But for Trabzonspor, I really liked the game, but it just showed that we are really missing a really proper defensive midfielder. We played with Sosa as an attacking as a midfielder, and Abdülkadir Parmak as a defensive midfielder with Ekuban in front. And I've seen a heat map of the game after with the position of each players, and Abdülkadir Parmak is pretty much invisible. He played way too forward. It was shown when Fenerbahçe was crossing the field with like 3 passes. It was really easy to come to the goal. But except all those things, I really liked the play that the guys had. Since we had Ünal Karaman coaching the team, we haven't lost in like 7 derby matches since like the first game against Galatasaray that we won 4-0. Ever since we lost only 1 against Galatasaray. We lost once against Galatasaray, and the rest of them we either drew or won. So I was pretty confident, to be honest. Sosa, that man, I love him. He's 34 years old. I love to have a midfielder that dictates the play, and he does that very well. He has really good vision. He was a bit too tired in the beginning, and lost the ball. But he picked off. He picked up back where he left, and showed pretty good skill. Sorloth, I can't believe that guy is like 191, but because he brings down every ball, but he is really fast on the ball. Also, he isn't sluggish like you expect of a tall forward. But
like a Fernandao or something.
Yeah, like a Crouch or something. It's like tall but really slow. And I like his attacking runs. He always seems to think about the goal. Wakayeme, self-explanatory. The guy is just a ball of lightning. He runs maybe like 3 times a game, but when he decides to run, he pretty much passes everyone that is in front of him. I really liked Ekuban this game. He scored a really good goal, and he seems to have matured into his role a bit more. He's stronger on the ball compared to last year, and he seems to have gained a bit of agility. He turned away from Emre and I think Ozan like twice, and he seems quicker off the dribble, so that's good to see. I actually think that Hussein and Hosseini in defense played pretty much a flawless game. They lost Gary, but Rodriguez is just way too fast to keep up, and I don't remember if that was Novak or Pereira. But it's going to be a hard season because they seem to be the starting defense for us, and we're going to play a lot of games. I like that Ünal Karaman finally started to make some good changes. It wasn't working with Audijaj. Even though I think Yusuf Sarr is absolutely horrible, it was good to get his pace on the pitch. He replaced Abdülkadir Parmak after the first half with Doğan Erdoğan, who also played a really good game. He seems to be chasing players pretty well and keeps his head up, so he has pretty good vision. But man of the match, player of the game, just give him the MVP trophy that we don't have. Uğurcan Çakır, that guy, he's like 24 years old, and he just keeps getting better and better and better after suffering through.
I think he's 22, isn't he?
I thought he was like 95, I thought.
Maybe he's 23, but I definitely don't think he's 24. But yeah, please continue making your point.
Still, he's pretty young, and after suffering, I liked Onur a lot. He was a really good keeper. But he had some difficulties with balls coming from the side of the pitch.
It was very small.
And Uğurcan seems to not really have a lot of mistakes.
Had the one against Prague, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, he has. I think that was pretty much because he lacked he lacked a bit of match fitness. He just got married in the in the break, so I think maybe his head was away. But still, he played a really great game. Um, Props to Fenerbahce. I have to say I didn't like Murici at all. I really like him because he's really a
Hmm.
energetic striker. But I really
He
liked
struggled a little in this match.
yeah, I really liked Cruz at this game. Cruz was pretty
Hmm.
much dictating the pace, and he was always on the ball, and on the left, on the right, he kept asking for the ball and playing and playing and playing. And Ozan Tufan, after being ridiculed last year for being fat and whatever, and making all the jokes about him, he played a really good game.
Sergen
Um,
Yalchin effect.
yeah, we haven't won like in 20 years or something in Kadıköy, and I have a
You're-
feeling that with how Ersun Yanal can motivate his players, it's going to last a little bit longer. Um, and lastly, I also really liked that Ali Koç and all could have really watched the game in all peace, no bullshit, no stress. Keep the past behind us,
Mhm.
and let's try to keep a normal relationship with the teams.
I think it was an example of how a derby should be played. It was a great game, spectacular for the neutral, like Burak pointed out. There was no controversy in terms of fights or anything like that, like we always see in the Fenerbahce Galatasaray matches. And sometimes in the recent years in the Besiktas Fenerbahce matches, but Besiktas Fenerbahce are usually pretty spectacular games too. But Galatasaray Fenerbahce is always just like, I don't know, not much football being seen in those games mostly. But I know Burak has to go soon, so let's quickly talk about the big talking points, which are the penalty positions. I think in the first half there was one for Trabzonspor where I think it was Sanka kind of giving Nakayeme a push in the back when he was lining up for a shot, but Nakayeme, being the strong ox he is, stays on his feet and actually squeezes off the shot. Probably should have gone down because then I think he always gets a penalty. And I definitely think that the push in the back hindered him from putting in a good shot. But then there's the one for Fenerbahce, of course, with the potential handball, which could be a potential penalty. I'll explain why it's not, but I'm gonna give Burak the floor first.
Why, thank you, my gracious host. I look forward to your explanation on why it shouldn't be a penalty. I'm taking my rules from it directly again from EFAB, which came into effect on the 2nd of June.
Why is that, bro?
Because I am a man of the law. That needs to be a T-shirt at some point.
Yeah, honestly, we should do some merchandise from this pod.
You just have to go, I am the law. Judge Dredd.
Maybe, and we can have the retort with the famous song by the Prodigy saying,
if we are ever doing T-shirts, we are doing one with "I am a man of the law." You can. We definitely do. Actually, we're gonna make that happen.
Amazing. Now, my understanding, the rules of the handball, it goes, the handball rule has been rewritten, but let's just display the entire written rule. So deliberate handball remains an offence, and it wasn't a deliberate handball at all. I don't think by the Trabzonspor player. His arm comes up, it comes off his knee, ball comes off his arm. You can see the trajectory of the ball change direction as well. And so what happens, I think, is the ball touches the player's hand arm, which has made their body unnaturally bigger. Now, at the point of contact, his arm is in between his hip and his shoulder. So it's not directly up, like if you're jumping up to block a free kick and your arm's in the air and it hits your hand, that's a clear handball. We saw that with Kimpembe in the Champions League. We saw it in the Champions League final with Sissoko. Unfortunately, he fell foul of the new law because I'm a man of the law. So for me, it touches the Trabzonspor player's arm, comes off his knee first, and then hits his hand. So for me, looking at the rules, that's a penalty. but I'm not going to cry too much about it at all.
Well, let me explain to you, Burak, why it's not a penalty.
Please.
So this is also in addition to the new rule since this year.
Is this real Dutch friend referee again?
No, I'm just finding this on the interwebs from EFAP. However, the following will not usually be a free kick or a penalty, whatever, blah, blah, blah, blah, blah. So this is important, what I'm going to read right now. The ball touches a player's hand, arm directly from their own head, body, or foot. So because the ball touched his own body first and then ricocheted onto his arm, it's not a penalty. If the ball touches his arm first, it's a penalty. So if the ball comes from a player's own body and then hits their arm, it's considered not a foul.
Well, you have that rule, but the rule says the following will not usually be a free kick unless they are one of the above situations. One of the above situations is the ball touching a player's hand, arm, which has made their body unnaturally bigger. So what you're talking about is the ball touches a player's hand, arm directly from their own head, body, foot, or the body part of another player. Yeah. So that I agree with. I think what we have to try and agree on, which I'm sure we won't do, is if the arm has made their body unnaturally bigger, because that's the key point here. It says it won't usually be a free kick unless they're one of the above situations. Mm-hmm. One of the above situations is the ball touching a player's hand, arm, which has made their body unnaturally bigger. Now, unfortunately, the description doesn't say if it comes off their leg, their foot, or if it comes off the leg or foot of another player. So I think that's where we have the ambiguity and the shades of grey.
I actually spoke about this exact situation before this match even happened. I spoke, when I was talking about the Galatasaray position with the penalty and stuff. I was actually speaking about this exact position because what I had in mind. Remember last year, Galatasaray Besiktas, there was Medel kicked the ball against Vida's arm. Now, last year that was not a penalty. This year that would be a penalty. So if the ball comes from a teammate and he kicks it accidentally against a teammate's arm, that's a penalty now. But if the ball comes off of your own body, I was literally told you can't do that on purpose. So I was like, okay, but who is going to kick the ball against his teammate's arm on purpose? But yeah, no. Apparently, it's as long as it comes off of your own body, and then it's not a foul. Apparently, yeah. That's why it wasn't checked by VAR, and that's why it wasn't awarded.
I still say penalty, but I would be interested to hear Yakup's opinion on it. Like I say, yeah. I think in the grand scheme of things, a draw is probably the fair result. But, I think on another day, that could potentially have been given as a penalty.
That it did look like a bit like a penalty, but I also agree with Kaan that, if a ball bounces off your leg and you can't do anything about it, it isn't like it's bouncing off his leg and he's trying to slap the ball away. It just happens. I think that another game that was played this weekend had the same thing. It was, I think, the Sivasspor Gazişehir game, I think, where the same thing happened, where the ball first hit his shoulder or something, and then his arm or something, and it's a hard decision for the refs. But I'm pretty sure that if he went to VAR, that he might have given it.
Yeah, but that's the thing. VAR wasn't going to intervene here because it came off of his own body.
Yeah.
So
that's why
what did you think of? There was this position in the second half where I thought maybe penalty. Ekuban with a little Marseille roulette, and I think he got tripped, but I'm not sure.
No. I don't know which defender it was. He got the ball. I remember that position.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, he was trying a bit too much. He was in the moment,
yeah.
And he was twisting the right stick to save his life, but it didn't really. But because I remember when I was watching the game, I was like, nah, that doesn't look like a foul, because he pretty much got the ball, if I remember correctly. But the position on Vakayeme, it looked like a foul, but I agree with what you said. If he fell instead of keeping running, he probably would have gotten the foul. But the guy is built like a fucking tank, so it's kind of hard to push him off the ball, and that I'm pretty sure that works in his disadvantage.
In this situation, yeah.
Yeah, in this situation. But I do think that the moment he was trying to strike the ball, he was pushed. So if a VAR
Yeah,
check was done, it might have given they probably would have given a penalty. But I don't think that a game this big in Istanbul, that the referee would have gone to VAR. I do have to say though, before the match was played and the referees were announced, I was like, oh god, here we go again, because I think that Fırat Aydınus is a bit. He's like the Fatih Terim of the refs. He pretty much plays for the camera. He's really too.
that's Ali Palabıyık.
I just, I don't like Turkish referees at all, but I just hate how he's trying to act like a Turkish Colina. But he really, I think that he really refed a good game. So
Yeah.
props to him.
Yeah, and I think we can agree that it was a very fair match. And I think two really good teams. For me, the best teams I've seen so far. If I look at the on paper title contenders, Başakşehir are looking very poor. Besiktas are nowhere near ready. Galatasaray looks like a team that's just past their prime because they have way too many old players. Obviously, that can change because they got a couple of players now on deadline. Fenerbahçe just look really fresh going forward. They are so impressive. They have so much energy. They attack with so much force. I think when they went up after 70 minutes, I really had the feeling of, well, they're just gonna walk over Trabzon. But then I was really impressed by how Trabzon rebounded and actually got back into the game. And then as Burak also pointed out, and I think like Yakup pointed out, in the second half they really got into the game. After, it has to be said, Fenerbahçe in the early minutes of the second half could have definitely scored. But then after those two or so chances, I think one a Vedat Muric header, and I think the other one was a header from who was the other header? I don't remember exactly, but two really good saves from Uğurcan at the start of the second half, and after that the match balanced out, and I think Trabzon maybe might have had the slight edge. Özer, your final thoughts on this match, please, because you haven't been able to say anything so far.
Yeah, I've been listening to you guys debate the penalty position with great interest. I just think the real takeaway, it was an interesting game actually. The real highlight for me was Uğurcan in goal for Trabzon, which you guys have already spoken at length, but just want to give him a shout out too, because he seems like a really solid guy and really impressed with his performance.
Great time waster as well.
Yeah, he's very good at that. He got a yellow card, I think, at some point, and then he was really teetering on the edge of getting a second, which would have been hilarious to get sent off for time wasting in a derby. But hey, that's a sign of maturity, I guess. So you got to give him credit for that. But Fener's goalie was also very impressive. So it's nice to see two young goalkeepers being given the chance. Trabzonspor look good going forward. They sort of bounce back after the goal, and I'm really excited to watch them when Saraj is finally bolted onto that team as well. I think they're going to be great going forward. But like I said before, I think they have to be very careful to cover up their holes in defence. Fener are sort of kind of like coming together, but they would have really liked to have won this game to have made a flashy start to the season. So 1-1, I think, probably suits Trabzon more than it does Fener.
Yeah, I mean, at the end, it was when we were 1-0 up and Mr. Giorgi decided to shoot instead of square the ball. I think if we'd have gone 2-0 up at that point, I think the game would have been decided. But Tolga decided that he was a striker instead of a central midfielder with no real shoot capacity.
That's how I feel about
thing
Juve.
with Avdijaj, pretty much Avdijaj and Sörloth being 2-on-1, and instead of passing it to a Sörloth or Wakaime, that's pretty much like 1-on-1 on the goal. He tried to shoot on goal and it didn't go in. I mean, after big games like this, it's always like, oh, what if this happened? What if this happened? But it is what it is.
Indeed, and before I drop off, I'd like to say it's been a pleasure having you on the podcast, Yakup. I hope we get you on again throughout the course of the season, and I'd like to wish you the very best in your Europa League campaign.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, let's quickly finish off with Malatyaspor against Alanyaspor. This match ending 2-3. Ceyhun Gülselam getting the scoring started in the 20th minute. 2 minutes later, Junior Fernandez doubles the scoreline for Alanyaspor, 2-0 up. Then in the 44th minute, Papi Cisse puts the 3-0 on the scoreboard. So halftime score 0-3 in favor of Alanyaspor. But Malatyaspor get back into the match through Tievi Bifuma in the 47th minute and then Adis Jahovic in the 57th minute, making it 2-3. And 30 plus more minutes to go, but no equalizer. This match ending 2-3, which makes Alanyaspor the lone leaders of the Super League, with the only team remaining with the maximum of the points, with 9 points out of 3 games. Quick thoughts on this, Yakup. Alanyaspor were impressive. They have been impressive since the start of the season, really.
Yeah, Junior Fernandez had a really good game. A great control every time. His finish was great. I love the cross on the first goal. Like, if it seemed like a Beckham cross. You have to give Malatyaspor your respect for being 3-0 down and still coming back. I do have to say though, I thought that the keeper should have got the goal of Jahovic. It was a really weird one where he misjudged the way he was going to head the ball, and he slapped the ball. He tried to slap the ball away, but it still went in. But a really good game. I like it when two smaller teams have games like this. It's really beautiful in the Turkish league.
Yeah, I think you're right. That's a good point. Some of these kind of smaller games often slip under the radar, but they're quite exciting to watch. So this was a pretty exciting game. I only saw the highlights, but it's pretty end-to-end stuff. Alanya made it 3 out of 3 now, so they're sitting pretty on top of the league. And also very impressed with Junior Fernandez. Played some really fancy football there. And Malatya, as you know, we watched them in Europe as well. They play some good football. They've got a decent squad. So both teams have good shout to finish at very least in the top half of the league. But yeah, agreeing with Yakup that wherever these two guys are involved, be interesting fixtures for sure.
And one more interesting point, Erol Bulut, of course, facing his former club Malatyaspor, and Sergen Yalcin facing his former club Alanyaspor. So that's just an interesting note. But we're going to close it off for this week, guys. Thank you very much for listening. Quick shout out, check out our Patreon at www.patreon.com/FALT if you want to support the podcasters too. There's 2 ways you can do so: by a $3 a month pledge or a $10 a month pledge. It would be very much appreciated if you could support the podcast. And stay tuned. We'll have some bonus episodes coming up for you during the course of the international break. We'll have episodes up previewing Galatasaray's Champions League group. I already have some confirmed guests for that. Jonathan Johnson will be covering Paris Saint-Germain. Ben Hayward will be covering Real Madrid. And Guillaume Mabe is coming on to cover Club Brugge. And then, of course, our very own Özer Dindjer will be talking about Galatasaray. We'll be previewing all 4 the teams, so that it's interesting for not just us Turkish fans, Turkish football fans, but also for other fans of the other clubs who might want to be listening. Then in the Europa League, confirmed guests for Group C, I have Oliver Zeisiger covering Basel, we have Will Baumgartner covering Krasnodar, and we have Alexandra Johnson covering Getafe. And then, of course, here our very own Yakup Marufoglu covering Trabzonspor. And in Group K, not that many confirmed guests actually. For Wolverhampton, we already have Alex Dicken confirmed, but I'm still looking for experts on Braga and Slovan Bratislava. And you know what? I'll probably bring in one of my Besiktas friends in order not to interview myself. That would be kind of ridiculous. Then Group J, Roma will be covered by John Solano. Mönchengladbach will be covered by Ronan Murphy. Başakşehir will be covered by our good friend Bruno Bottaro, and Wolfsberger will be covered by Martin Schauhuber. So those are our upcoming guests. I have a lot of recording to do in the next week or 2, so bear with me if the episodes kind of drop at weird times. But thank you for listening to this episode of Football a la Turca. Please check the show notes for Twitter handles and such, and see you all next week, or maybe even sooner.